Day. Give me 1 second here to get everything set up. Make sure that I'm streaming. Maybe not. There we go. Okay, perfect. It's such a delay. It's so weird to hear yourself talk and then hear yourself talk again. All right. Okay, perfect. Let me also post over here. You guys, I sent out a newsletter yesterday. And it was the first one. Put this in here. So I just posted the link if you haven't subscribed yet. So if you are just new to following me, then you don't know this yet. But if you follow me a lot, then you'll know my number one thing isn't like a lot of people where I try to hook, line, and sinker you onto a call so I can sell you something. I'm super big into giving. And so I send you an email that went out yesterday that helps you to align with the specific energy of the week. And this is based off of human design. So if you're not familiar with human design, I'm telling you, it is one of my all-time favorite methodologies to study. And here's why. I sort of dipped my toes into things like horoscopes and astrology, but it didn't really seem to quite click. And I'm a firm believer that when you run across certain things, that there's a time and a space and a purposeful place for everything. And when I came across human design, it was one of those I call them aha moments, right? Where you're just oh my gosh, this makes perfect, beautiful sense. So human design goes so much further than anything as far as oh, I know when I'm born and this is my horoscope. And I always thought, if you think about it, so if you're reading a horoscope, you're telling me that every single person born in that exact same time all has the same horoscope for the day. And to me, that just wasn't detailed enough. I feel like people are so much more complex than that. And so sure, you may read it and there are certain things that illuminate with you, but when it really came down to it, I felt like there was so much more. And then I ran across human design. And if you are interested in hearing more or getting more info about this, just let me know. But human design basically takes your date of birth, your time of birth, and your location of birth. And it's based off of this amazing methodology that incorporates a bunch of ancient type of energy methodologies like I Ching and the Tree of Life and also astrology, but it combines them all together and makes this very beautiful, super complex blueprint for yourself. And in this blueprint, you can literally see who you are down to these intrinsic little details. And the reason that I love it is because human design works so beautifully with the methods that I use to help people release from their subconscious toxic phrases, negative core beliefs, blocked emotions, uh, energies that happen from events, all kinds of negative energy. And so with those gone, you really can start to use your human design blueprint as this true place that you can go to figure out how, not necessarily how you should be reacting, because to me that sounds like a value-based system, but it's how you are exactly designed to react. And so by that, I mean, there's so many cookie cutter systems out there right now where everybody, wants to fit you into this, oh, if you want to be a successful business owner, then do this. Well, the problem is that not everybody's designed to be a successful business owner, number one, but not everyone's even designed to be a successful business owner the same way. And so that's why things just don't work out, and we feel so much resistance. Like I saw someone the other day making a post about, like, I've done all this work and I still am procrastinating and I can't get myself to move forward with my business. There's something that isn't aligned there. Like, you're trying to either do something that's not aligned with your purpose, or you need to clear some things out. Because anytime that you're meeting resistance in your life, you're simply not living in your authentic space. And so that's why I absolutely love human design. And the great thing about it is it shows you things that you like my text tone? It's so radiating with me, right? I love it when I'm somewhere public. I don't know how well you guys could hear that, but I love it when I'm somewhere public and my text tone goes off because everyone looks for a crow. Doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of Walmart, the salon, or, in a bathroom. Everyone's like, "Where's the bird?" So, I love it. Um, okay. So, understanding your human design allows you to make decisions without having to question yourself. It shows you things that you are. So, when I say things that you're cognitively aware of, those are like things that when you self reflect, like, you do it. So, let me give you an example of one of mine. I know that I get really defensive when someone tells me what to do, right? That's something I'm very cognitive aware of in my design. Things that you are not so cognitively aware of are things that you do that if we were to ask someone else whether or not you do it, you probably think that you don't, but the people around you are very aware that you do it. So those are things that you subconsciously do that you may not always be aware of. And so your human design is really cool because um it shows you where you're really consciously aware of things, but it also shows you where you're not so consciously aware of things. So, this beautiful email that I sent out, which you can subscribe to over there, I'm sending it out every Sunday, and it'll tell you how to align with those energies of the week, because wherever the planetary systems are, you can take advantage of the energies. And so I've included like a journaling prompt, things that you can do. There's a specific thing to ground yourself for the week. There's a specific energy to work on to release that's like old stagnation energy. And so you can do that and spend the week really focused on. It's almost like, when people are always complaining, "Oh, the moon's, creating all kinds of haphazards for me." So think about, like, what if you had the ability to align with the energy of the moon and make it a positive for you instead of such a resistance energy? Or same with when Mercury's in retrograde. So that's what my email gives you every week when I send it out on Sunday. Okay, so let's talk about tonight. We're talking about anchors. So, welcome. If you're new, my name is Amy Elizabeth Jorgensen, and I absolutely have found my purpose and passion by teaching other people how to get out of the rabbit hole. When I say the rabbit hole, that's the space that we fall into, that it's almost like, ooh, when you first do, right? Like, you're just kind of like sliding down the side, but you still, like, think about it. Like, the whole top part of your body is still outside of the rabbit hole. Maybe your feet are in. So it's not too hard to pull yourself out, but it's, day after day. And then you just keep falling further and further. And, the rabbit hole has the roots on the side of it. So you can, kind of grab your way back out. But at some point, when you fall through the depths and you just get to the bottom, it's like literally looking up and seeing this itty bitty teeny white light at the top. And it seems so impossible to climb back out of it because we've sabotaged our way so far down the rabbit hole, and we are attracting so many things that are so negative by that point that you literally just feel like it's hopeless, right? And so my purpose and passion is helping you to get back out of that space. And so one of the ways that I do this is, as I mentioned, my emails that I send on Sundays, and also doing these lives. And it's just me being able to give some of that energy back, because I did realize, especially when I dove into my human design, I just happen to be one of the people that is able to create energy and share it with others. So let's take a look at today and what we're going to talk about in anchors. So I wanted to really focus on, I love sets of three. So we're going to focus on three things that I want you to become aware of, because whether or not you decide to dive into energy methodologies, or, you do energy healing sessions or whatever, I want to always give you something that you can take from this, and having cognitive awareness of the why we do things can be so important and so helpful. So we're going to talk about some of the ways that we do these anchors. Okay. So I also had to add this because what does it look like when you heal? I had a very enlightening experience today where I was like, this is it, like literally. Anybody in my family, especially my siblings, will testify to you, or my kiddos, um, that in the past I have been a unreliable grenade of sorts. Like, you just never know when the pin is going to be pulled and when I was going to go off on someone. And as you heal, you realize that, like, those outbursts or those expressions, like Cody even just made a comment to me about how much, like, he was dealing with some stuff today, like how in his older age, like, he has so much more patience than he used to. Um, and so I just wanted to share with you, like, I went to the store today after work and I was just buying, you know how you just go in, I'm just going to buy a gallon of milk and a carton of eggs. That is literally what I was getting. And then you end up with all this other stuff. So I'm going through the checkout and I just happen to have this gift voucher from my work so that I could get like $25 off of my groceries. And I had sent all of my stuff through the check stand, and I didn't have a lot, but I probably had like 4 or 5 bags of things. So, and enough. I sent it through there. And then I gave her my voucher and she tried to run it. And then at some point during this whole process, the whole entire system that she was using, like, it froze up. And so now I have other people in line. They're doing the whole, like, come on, lady, I've got places to go. And the guy, like, behind me only had like a container that he looked like he got from the deli that he was, trying to eat lunch or something. And so then I'm starting to, feel like I'm holding up everyone else. And so the old me, because I had so much built up anger, and it would create a feeling of anxiousness. So anxiousness, anger, and depression are all super closely related. When we are really anxious all the time, we tend to get really angry because we're so tired of being anxious. And then your anxiousness and your anger lead you to feel so much exhaustion that it ends up putting you into a space of depression. And so sometimes we don't realize how, like, entwined all this stuff is, which is one of the great things about doing an ELV session, is like, I'll pull those out of your subconscious and show you how sometimes even things that don't make sense are entangled together. But so as I'm standing there, my old self, my unhealed old self, um, would have been starting to feel that anxiousness. And in the moment of feeling anxious, after a bit, I would have started to become very angry, because I would have started blaming and being angry with the people that were running the register, that they were putting me into this situation. And I would have started acting as you see this lady in this image. And oh, by the way, I'm having so much fun creating images. So I am making these. If you want to follow, it's my business that I'm just diving into. So my Facebook page is brand new, and I'm not offering these services anymore. But if you follow me on Facebook, you saw the one that I did, because everyone's always like, you and Cody don't ever take pictures together. So I told him, I was like, I'm going to put us into a image that I'm going to create that's going to be at a castle. And so I put that on there yesterday. But anyway, it's called Soul Delicious Design. So you can follow along if you want. I'm having a lot of fun making my own images instead of having to buy them or, borrow, beg and steal. So this lady, right? Like, this would be me previously starting to react because my anxiety was building. So what happened is, because the system got stuck, basically froze, then she had someone else come over and help her. And when he did it, it deleted Like, usually, if you've ever been to the store, they usually can, like, suspend your transaction, and then they can, like, print it out, and they can scan it in somewhere else so you can pay. Well, for some reason, um, it didn't do that, so it deleted everything. And so the younger kid was like, "We're gonna have to, like, scan all your stuff again." And so the old me would have been, like, freaking out, being pissed off, making people feel bad because my anxiety led to my anger, and I'm taking it out on everybody else, right? But instead, I was like, "Oh, okay, no problem." And so I just looked at him and I said, "Can we let the people, um, that are in line go ahead of me? Because I don't wanna make them keep waiting." And he was like, "Oh, no, let's go over to this other register that no one's at." And so, um, I had to unbag all of my groceries and put them back through again, and then he didn't have any help, so I bagged them back into the bags myself, and he got my voucher to work, but then something else weird happened, so it was like another thing, right? But the healed part of me was, like, maintaining this, like, second lady here, where I was like, "Hey, I understand, like, things happen." Well, one of the things that happened was this, specific grocery store that I'm at, you earn wallet credits, like so many credits when you're shopping, right? It automatically tallies up. And so they'll ask you, like, "Hey, do you want to use your wallet credits today?" So when I did this, the first time I had like $5.50 of wallet credits. And so sometime during when all this happened, like, it appeared in the system that my wallet credits disappeared. And so when I went to check out again, they were gone. And so then I had to go over to the customer service desk, of course, because he was like, "Oh, I don't have the capability to put your wallet credits back in there." But then when I went over, it became a whole hocus pocus of, she's like, "Oh, I can't see your wallet credits. I don't know." And anyway, they were being very, very, very friendly, by the way. Customer service was awesome, but my old me wouldn't have cared. I would have just been pissed that these people were wasting my time, and I want to go home, and I feel stupid because everyone's watching me. And I didn't react that way at all. Um, I was just like, "Oh, okay, no problem." I'm like, "So can you see it?" And here's kind of the fun part is that during this, like, there was a thing of flowers sitting there, that were wrapped up for somebody to buy, right? And she's like, "Do you want these? You should take these. You can have these flowers. They need to go to a happy home or whatever." And so it was kind of just like also that realization of, like, right, positive gets positive. And I left the store feeling really great about my reaction and knowing that I wasn't reacting out of anger. I was being very pleasant. I understood that this really wasn't anyone else's problem. I wasn't shifting blame onto everyone else. And so this is going to lead us into what we're talking about tonight. But I'm just going to tell you, like, what a beautiful feeling to um, be in a space where, you know, you're not reacting. And I had a moment a couple months ago where I was doing really well with the situation. It's a very personal situation. So there's a lot of emotions involved, and I had done so good, and I had to go to a specific place, where there was lots of people, lots of family members, and had, like, in three different instances, three different people, like, confront me about something, and it really took me to not a great place. And so I said something to someone that I regret saying, and in the moment, still, we're gonna go into this in a second, but in the moment, still looking back, I see growth because the old me would have said it really loud so that everyone could hear, and the more healed me, even though I allowed, watch also, I'm gonna take responsibility. Even though I allowed myself to get into an emotionally triggered space, I'm grateful that the words that I said to someone were quiet. But it's difficult to take responsibility for your actions when you clearly know that the way that you responded to something was not the way that you want to respond. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you get past that, because if you hold on to that anchor, you can't progress because you're just constantly beating yourself down. It's like trying to train a dog, but you keep kicking it, right? So let's look a little closer at three things that we do that where we anchor ourselves to the past. through blame. Okay. So one of these is people holding us there. Now, we have to realize that when I say people holding us there, we are also completely capable of being in the mirror image of this. So don't do exactly what I am talking about by pointing blame at other people and saying they're the ones holding me in this space, because you also clearly have the choice to disassociate yourself with these people. It's really dry here. I'm really dehydrated, so I'm like lathering up with the chapstick in the water. Okay, so people holding you there, you can also be said person. So being blamed, blame is another person's way to offload. And as I go through these, I want you to really try to get yourself into a very allowable space where you're allowing yourself to really deeply think, because this takes a real high cognitive level of understanding here. So blaming is another person's way to offload. So when we blame people, it allows us to express emotions that we otherwise don't want to hold on to. It's also incredibly easy. Blaming someone else makes us momentarily feel really good. And so it's a very effortless tactic. And it's also very self serving, because if we can shift blame or blame someone else, it's like we're clearing our plate. Okay. So here's where you have to really open yourself up to some, what I call, putting yourself into a space of nothingness, which this is a very high quantum physics concept. But when people can put themselves into a space of nothingness, they achieve amazing results as far as getting themselves into a state of meditation that is using brain waves that are literally the highest level that you can get to. But it's called a state of nothingness. It's a little bit difficult to explain, but you literally have no opinion and you have no negative thought perception. So being at fault, as crazy as it sounds to your cognitive mind, it's a perception, because when you place someone in fault, you have a perception that what they did was wrong, and that really is just a reality based on someone else's filters. That's why we argue so much, is because think of the last time you got into an argument with your partner or your spouse. More than likely, you were trying to place blame on them for something that happened, or they were placing blame on you for something that happened. So you have two different views of the same exact situation, but one of you feels that the one person is at fault and the other person feels that the other person is at fault. And that's why fault is simply a perception. So someone blaming you is simply a perception. Now, when it comes to the higher level of things, there is zero benefit from blaming when it comes to universal laws. You do not get anything out of being blamed, nor do you get anything out of blaming someone else. So it is not a positive place to put yourself. It feels good to your cognitive mind to place blame on other people, but it is not a positive energy exchange. So allowing yourself to be in this now space where you realize that blaming someone else is absolutely pointless, and accepting blame does not do you any good either. These are perceptions. And we're going to talk about two other things that come into this. So it does create an energy cord with the person if they are blaming you or you are blaming them. So how do we get away from this? Well, it's a tactic that you get to work on a little bit, because it's releasing yourself from needing or seeking the opinions of other people. So just put that into your cognitive awareness. Seeking or needing the opinions of other people. I even sometimes see it when I'm doing energy work as swallowing the opinions of other people. And it can really, really mess with your physical body, obviously, as well as your energy form. But just know that there is an energy cord anchor. So don't blame other people either. As much as you want to and as good as it feels, it's just a self-serving bias. It's a soothing tactic for you. Nobody actually needs to be at blame for anything. That's a form of judgment. That's not really your realm. Okay. So let's look at this other one. What about beliefs holding you there? How about some of these? When I do something wrong, I deserve to be punished. I mean, think about that as a negative core belief. When I do something wrong, that is not what I wanted to do. When I do something wrong, hold on, let me switch these. I was trying to move this. Ah! Oh, ah! This is why. Don't mess with stuff. Okay, hold on. Let me get this back. Um, Amy, what did you do? Why did you touch it? Okay. There we go. Oh my goodness, that was great. Okay. All right. I just have it set up differently than it was before, but this will work. Okay. So when I do something wrong, I deserve to be punished is a negative core belief. Okay. Um Something good cannot come from something bad. So these are all beliefs that anchor and hold you into something. I just realized that I can't see anything that I used to could. All right. Note to self, do not ever touch that again. I don't want to do that. I don't know about that. I don't know this. I don't want to mess it up even more. Okay. Um, the world of touching your restream. Okay. Something good cannot come from something bad. I'm a bad person. If I let it go, it happened in vain. This is probably one of the bigger ones. If I let it go, it happened in vain. That one traumatizes people a lot because you have this negative core belief that if you allow something to go, then it's almost like it happened and it doesn't matter. So let me give you like a really, really big example. Is I just want to make sure something is that okay, perfect. Is that let's say that you had a horrible event where you decided to, well, maybe you didn't even decide to do something bad. Maybe you just accidentally took the life of someone else in a car accident. And unfortunately, because you were texting, you ran a stop sign. And so you took someone's life and you definitely didn't mean to. And now, though you are living through the consequences of your actions and you're in jail, and you somehow get out early and you now are like living in this space where you feel like if you forgive yourself, then the person that passed away died in vain because you don't, if you forgive yourself, then that means you don't care about it. So that one happens a lot. That was a pretty like exemplified example, but you can think about something that's happened to you in your life where you feel like maybe you did something, even if you didn't necessarily mean to, but it costs someone else a lot in your cognitive mind. You feel like it cost them a lot. And if you let it go, maybe you feel responsible for something that happened when you were parenting your kiddos and now they're older and you see them struggling. So you're blaming yourself and you feel like if I let this go and I give myself grace and I forgive myself, then it means that, my kid is still struggling, but I've let go of that. So it happened in vain, but my kid is still struggling. Kind of see how that belief holds you into that space. It can be very, very detrimental to you moving forward when, the reality of it is, and I'll say this, there are a lot of people that have gone through some pretty horrible things in their life. Okay. So you can have somebody that's been sexually molested and they grow up to be a super successful person in the workplace with their career. Maybe they're a business owner and they've got a family and they're very happy and everything is all in well. And then you can have someone else that was molested that grows up to, become a drug addict and XYZ. So, things happen to people and your background doesn't need to define who you are today. It's just that we have all these beliefs and these things that we're taught, and they just make it so that we can't let go of stuff. Um, I've had some things happen in my life that are based off of some things that, of course, and this is the other thing too. And I just thought about this right now, but we're so good at this as well. It's really easy to look backward because you know what you know. And when you're going through an event, you don't know in the moment what you don't know. And so, of course, like you can look back and say, well, I now know the consequence, or I now know what happened. So if I could go back and change something, like let me use my boy's dad passing away as an example. Like, of course, like had I been aware that he was contemplating taking his life, of course I would have done things differently. Because I would have had an awareness that he was at that point. But because I didn't have that awareness, why would I be worried about it happening? Like I wouldn't be. Like at the time that he did this, like we had separated, but we are still living in the same house, just in different rooms. But of course, like if I had any idea, like, he was still one of my best friends. So if I had known what I know now, right? It's so easy to do that. And then, you beat yourself up, and like also everybody else is beating me up because of course I must have done something because, why would someone just go do that to themselves? It must be my fault. And that's a sad place to put people in. I'm just going to like go out on a tangent here for a minute because I've met multiple women in my life whose spouses, and I'm just saying, women, because that's just the situations that I've been with people in. So don't hold me to a gender bias here. I'm not saying that this also isn't totally parallel to a man having his wife do this as well. But I've had multiple women in my life that reach out to me that have had spouses or significant others that they've been in relationships with take their lives in the same type of situations. Like they've gotten separations or divorces. And then unfortunately, that's what the other person has done. And it always blows my mind because in every single situation, the community always blames them. And it's just really interesting to me. But also, we can go back to the previous slide, right? Why are people blaming? It's a way to offload. It's a way to easily, effortless tactic to explain why someone in that situation maybe took their life. And so, when it comes down to it, though, unless you actually were holding the item used to take a person's life, no one is at fault for that. And it's just an unfortunate series of events that leads a person down that rabbit hole to the point that they just can't get out anymore. But everybody still has that choice. There's my little tangent because I've just seen this happen so many times. And I just know because even when I was going to write this, like there was a little bit of a moment that took me back to that space where I used to wake up in the middle of the night with horrifying anxiety just because I had that pit in my stomach that I was carrying all of that because of the way that people were treating me after that happened. And here's the hypocritical part of that is that people are so certain that you did something so horrible to someone that it led them to a space to take their own life, but they're actually doing the same thing to you that they feel like you did to someone else. So if you don't think that there was a moment in my life after that happened that people were being so wretched to me, and it was affecting my kids because people don't realize what happens. Like I remember they were like, "Oh, we're going to do sub for Santa for you." And then suddenly they were like, "No, we're certain that you did something horrible, so we're not going to do that anymore." That affected my kids, not me, so much, right? And so it's crazy how people can do that to other people when they're like not understanding or reflecting that they're actually doing the same thing that they're upset at you for doing, right? I mean, I don't know, but I just think it was kind of a crazy thing, but I've seen it multiple times since with other people. Okay, here's the other thing. So you're unable to see the value. So you're holding on to an anchor because you're so focused on the guilt and self-blame that you just can't see the value. And of course, as we just mentioned, you may have lots of people, lots of energy cords, lots of opinions from other people holding you into that space, which really isn't their space to be in, but they do it. And I was actually going to try to get rid of this. Do I dare actually want to touch anything on my screen? But you're unable to see the value in a situation. So, man, I'm just going to be sharing all my traumas tonight because they're just like great examples. So here's another one. The greatest blessing in my life was my most painful experience. When I was sitting in the cardiac care unit with my daughter, and I remember meeting this lady, and she and her husband were just a godsend blessing at the time. I accidentally had sent my wallet back in my car. And so I was 2 hours away from my then daughter's dad, my ex-husband, and I had accidentally sent my wallet, my purse back with him in the car. So I didn't have any money, and I was living in a camper in the parking lot of this um, hospital. And I would get up every morning. I would go in. I would sit in a chair next to my daughter because I couldn't hold her because of all the stuff she was hooked in. She was on a breathing tubes. She was on a feeding tubes. And then also just all of the stuff monitoring her heart. So um, anyway, I ran across this beautiful woman and her husband who happened to be there for the second time. If I recall right, something was going on with their daughter. She was a little bit older. I'm thinking like maybe 5 to 10ish age. I don't remember for sure, but she had just like had some really off the wall experience where something had happened to her and they couldn't figure out what was going on, but it was something to do with like almost if I recall right, something like almost like she had had a stroke or something and no one could really explain it. She was there for testing, but she wasn't um doing very well. And this mom, bless her heart, was telling me, and like everything she's going through was telling me that she had been there, like, I don't remember exactly all the details. So this for me was, back in 2017. So I'm not recalling everything exactly, but something along the lines of within, I think, the past 5 years, she had been there in the same situation that I had, where she had had a baby. It was born with a heart issue. They took him in for surgery and he ended up passing away when he was only like a few days old. And I remember her telling me like her son was the greatest blessing of her life. And in that moment of me being exhausted out of my mind, watching my daughter fighting helplessly or fighting for her life while I felt completely helpless, living in a camper by myself, I just like literally, if you really want to know who's on your team, go through something like that, because the amount of people that didn't reach out to me just to say like, Amy, we're thinking about you and we hope you're okay, was very like alarming, because outside of my coworkers and my boss and my mom, it really didn't have anybody. I was going through a horrifying time in my marriage, and I literally remember sitting at the nurse's station once bawling my eyes out, and the lady was like, "It's okay, your daughter's doing well." And I was like, "You just have no idea. Like the fight that's going on my cell phone right now was horrifying." And so I would when this she told me the greatest blessing was her son passing away, like him being born, the time she got to spend with him, not him passing away, but the few days that she got to spend with him. I could not comprehend this in the moment. I was like, "No, I am in hell right now. There is nothing good that can come out of this." And now I also want you to know that at this point in my life, I had not ventured into the world of energy work whatsoever, because I got here out of complete desperation from wanting to kill myself. And, you know, uh, at that point, I was in a very structured religion. I just was lost. Lost. I wanted to blame God. I wanted to blame everyone else. I was in a really big mess. So, fast forward to now. I can 100% tell you that my daughter, and the 26 days that I got to spend with her, she was absolutely the greatest blessing of my life. And that was also the most painful experience I've ever gone through. And it took me to the bottom of the rabbit hole, to the absolute depths, where I literally met with myself one day and thought, for the second time in my life, I want to end it. I want to end my life. And the two things that kept me going the first time were my kids. And the three things that kept me going the second time were my kids. But I know what it feels like to be there. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have my purpose and my passion that I do to help other people, because when I see someone really struggling and when I see someone hitting those depths, I know that there is the ability for you to come out of that. And I also can tell you, it doesn't matter how horrible things feel right now. It doesn't matter how far gone you are right now. You can get out of that space. Now, I made a post earlier today and I had someone on one of my pages who is just not okay with the post that I made. And I can see how much, based off of their comment, they're hurting. And the old me would have gotten into a fight with them. I would have been forcing my opinion and needing to make them see things my way. And, I just responded with, I'm so grateful for what I have, no matter how horrible it is. And, her response was very defensive. And the old me would have gotten onto that bandwagon and fought that fire and got adrenaline off of arguing with her. And because that's how I used to be, very confrontational. And, all I said to her when I realized like that's where we were going was I just said, blessed be, because I really want her to heal from whatever she's struggling with. And that is the greatest blessing that my daughter gave me. It took me some time to get here. Mind you, it didn't happen overnight. Like, I spent a lot of time deflecting my anger and my hurt from having my daughter die onto other people, because I remember, even when I found out she had an issue and I was like, "Hey, I really want to talk about like where we're going to bury her." And I had people be like, "Okay, why don't you focus on like worst case scenario?" And I said, "No, it's because if she does pass away, the last thing I want to be focused on is trying to figure out where she's going to be buried." And I said, "I know that there's a huge potential that she's going to pass away at some point in her life. She's not going to have the lifespan an adult. And if something happens, I just don't want to be thinking about that in the moment." And I had so many people telling me like, "Oh, you're being so negative." And I can't remember overall where I was going with that. But, you know, it definitely took me to a really bad space that I had to come out of, because I know where I was going with that. I remember someone commenting and saying, "I can't believe you're contemplating where you should bury your daughter before she's even born." Nothing. And someone said, "God would never do that to you. You already had your boy's dad take his life. Your daughter's not going to die. Like, there's no way you're going to be forced to go through that experience again." Also, keep in mind, like, the time from this is really close. My boy's dad lost his life in 2014, and my daughter was born at the end of 2017. So there's not a lot of time span going through here, right? So it's relatively speaking pretty fresh still. And I remember someone saying that God would never do that to you again. Okay, so when she passes away, what do you think goes through my brain? Is these cognitive, I call these toxic phrases. So now I have this toxic phrase stuck in my subconscious of, "Oh my gosh, I must have done something completely to deserve my daughter dying." And then you get sucked down the rabbit hole where you're like, "Ooh, I bet all of my haters are sitting around watching my Facebook page being like, Amy got what she deserved." And I actually had someone say this to my face who was in my family, that they didn't care that my daughter died. And it really, really took me to a really bad place. So, yes, all of this was the greatest blessing of my life, because I have empathy for people that have gone through this. Like, I know what you're going through when I tell you that I understand the deep darkness of despair. I'm not just blowing smoke. Like, I know how you feel, and I know what it feels like to cry yourself to sleep, to go to bed wishing that you would not wake up in the morning. And that is how the greatest blessing of my life was my daughter passing away. And it was also my most painful experience. But without it, I would not be able to bring people what I do. Okay. So, yes, you can use beautiful processes like ELV to release these things, learn behaviors, but you can also do this on your own because I also understand. But it is also why I keep my sessions so affordable, comparatively speaking, to some other methods that people use. And, I have people be like, oh, Amy, you don't charge enough because you don't understand or you don't value yourself. This is not true at all. That's also just a perception, right? I do value myself completely. But I also know that what I give to you also comes back to me tenfold energetically. And so I don't need to place a bigger monetary value on it so that I can, you know, anyways, that's my own perception on that. Okay. So here's some things that we release. We release learned behaviors. So you can also do this yourself. Like, what learned behaviors are you carrying around that's making it so that you can't release things that you're blaming yourself for? So a learned behavior of seeking to blame kind of also falls along this next one, like events. Where did you observe and model other people? Where did you see your parents, your guardians, whoever raised you? Where did you see this modeling of behavior? Certainly, if you grew up in a traditional, family where you had a mom and a dad, you saw your parents getting into arguments and one blaming the other. You saw your parents blaming you for playing ball in the house and breaking a lamp. It's just one of those conditional behaviors that we have happen to us. When you go to school, you observe the modeling and behavior of others blaming each other. Kids are really great at it. You also have negative core beliefs. These come up from ancestral things. These come up from sitting into religious sermons. These come up from all kinds of places. Things don't just happen. So it's a negative core belief. You must have been deserving. Now, this goes positive or negative. Things don't just happen. If I believe that positive things happen to me because I'm doing positive things, that's also creating the potential of a negative core belief of, if I'm doing bad things, then bad things happen. So if something bad happened to me, I must have been doing something wrong. I must have been doing something bad. But that goes back to the previous thing of that I just said. Sometimes we can't see the value in a situation, but it's a progression. So even if something appears to be bad, I want you to challenge yourself to change the perception. Just like I showed you a second ago when I was telling you that my greatest thing that happened to me, my greatest hardship was also my greatest blessing because I choose to view it like that. Now, can I go into victim mentality and be like, oh my gosh, I was on top of the world. I was an Air Force pilot. And then boom, bada bing, I decided to get out of the military. And what happens? Like, it looks like total chaos. My dad, my boy's dad passes away and then my daughter dies. Or I can choose to look at it as, what did I go through in that time period? And I went through a lot, some of which I don't even share because I have my reasons. But, um, I could choose to look at it as like, woe is me, I am the victim. Or I can choose to look at it as, what did I get out of this situation? Something positive. Okay. Then we also have toxic phrases. These are things that you hear or read. Someone is to blame. Someone needs to be blamed. So toxic phrases are things that you hear people say, and they just, even if you don't necessarily believe them cognitively, you still hear them and your subconscious grasps onto them. Okay. You guys, that was a lot, but it was a lot of amazing. And I'm going to leave you with something that is, just as I click off this, let me find myself. Where am I? Okay, here we are. Let me just make myself massively big. I just want to leave you with something tonight. I really 100% believe that no matter what you're blaming yourself for or what you can't get past, or if other people are holding you onto that space, take a moment and give yourself that permission to release yourself from it. And, know that it has no purpose. Blaming yourself serves no purpose. So take what you learned from the situation and turn it into a positive. Because if you don't, it really did happen in vain. If you're just holding on to it, you're letting it anchor to you. It's like, I don't know if you guys saw this. Let me find it because it's really, man, I can't find any of everything's just gigantic and I've like lost all my tools. That is not what I was going to show you this picture. So there we go. Okay, you guys probably saw it, but it's such a resonating image that I want to find it for you again. Actually, I think it isn't saved on my computer, but it's my image on my Facebook page that I used when I did the announcement for this live, and it's 2 feet and oh, I know how to get it for you. It's 2 feet in the sand, right? And it like literally screamed to me. There we go. It literally screamed to me because I thought when I saw this that, there we go. Okay. It means it, if you didn't see it, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. And now I can't get it to switch. I don't know what is going on here. That is not the window that I would like to share. I want to share this window. I don't know. It's having stress. Okay, maybe I won't share it. Maybe I can flip this. There we go. Okay. So these feet, right? When I looked at this, is what this said to me was this person if you want to go out into the ocean, what's going to happen? Let's say that there's a gigantic anchor on the other side of this chain, right? You are carrying your blame like this anchor. And maybe you actually have the key to unlock these chains, but maybe someone isn't allowing you to do it because they're holding you to blame, or you're holding yourself to blame. Whatever that is, holding you onto these chains. If you step out into that ocean and you decide to go out far enough, what will happen to you? You can't swim with that stuck to you, right? So you're going to literally drown. So you have to give yourself permission to undo these chains. Because what purpose is it serving right now for this person to stand here with this anchor chained to them? Nothing, right? If you saw them on the beach, you would be like, this isn't going to work out for you, right? And you would just, and especially if you know that you have the keys there, you would look at this person and be like, why are you not just unlocking the lock and taking this off so you can go out into the ocean and swim, or run away down the beach, right? Or leave. The kind of same thing goes on to here. So whatever it is anchoring you onto there, give yourself grace and give yourself permission to let go of it, because it isn't serving you. It isn't serving you. I know it feels like it because you've been taught that it is, but blaming yourself, and don't be the person that's blaming other people, because once again, that's a filtered perception. But let it go, because it's not serving you and it's not doing any good. Okay. All right, you guys. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Monday. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter. You should be able to see the link in the comments if you want to get that every Sunday, so you can align with the energies of the week. It's got some really delicious stuff that you can do in it that will really help you make the most of your week for grounding and releasing stagnant energies. And bless be. I hope you have an amazing rest of your night.